All right, I want to thank you all for joining us on the Sideman Song Swap podcast. This is episode 6. My guest today is Daniel Davis, and he'll be joining me for the Sideman Song Swap coming up this Tuesday, April 20th at Gruene Hall. So, I'll start this out the way I always do. Tell us a little bit about how you got into music and your journey that got you to where you are today.
Well, I started playing music through just traditional piano lessons when I was a kid, about 4 or 5 years old. Did that for a few years, and then really started playing in church when I was about 10.
Nice.
And so a lot of weekend gigs, Saturday, Sunday services, and then as I got a little bit older, started doing like the youth services like on Wednesdays and the college services on Tuesdays, and then I was up there every night of the week, putting in a lot of hours.
Full-time job.
Yeah, well, and then it turned into a full-time job when I graduated high school.
Nice.
So,
And this is out in Amarillo?
Amarillo, Texas, yeah. Nice. So just a lot of church music growing up, and then about the time I was 19, I played at the Golden Light with a guy named Ryan Colwell and a couple other guys, and we just kind of played in the Texas Panhandle in Oklahoma and that area, and just he's actually done pretty well now out in Nashville, and but yeah, that's kind of my intro to the bar scene. Then I got married and kind of took a small break from hitting the road so much.
Yeah, that'll kind of change your motives and your goals in music, I feel like, when you get a family going. So was that a hard transition from church music to honky-tonk type stuff, or did it come pretty naturally?
It came pretty naturally. I mean, just mostly because the guys I was playing with, I was already buddies with, and it was just, we played at church together, most of them, and so we just had great friendships already built, and then it was just fun, It's also, being able to play in the band at like 19 and 20, like people buy you shots, and it's like, this is cool. Like, they're not even checking their IDs.
Man, when I got into country, I was playing with a guy named Mark McKinney, and I started playing with him when I was like 19, 20, somewhere in there. And so, yeah, first couple shows, I wasn't even 21, and when you show up with a band, they don't ask.
Yeah, no way.
And so I did a little drinking before I was supposed to, and my first big show, we were opening for Kevin Fowler. It was here in town in New Braunfels at River Road Ice House. Mm-hmm. So my whole family came, and they got to watch from like the top VIP thing. And afterwards, they were like, "You supposed to be drinking?" I was like, "No, but they don't ask, blah, blah." And sure enough, after everyone's cleared out, last few minutes, I'm standing with my family, and right in front of them, some guy taps on my shoulder. "Sir, can you please step against the bar?" I was like, "Excuse me?" And sure enough, it was TABC.
No way.
And so I got in a little trouble for that. But
you didn't even get the band pass?
No, not with the law. I think the bars kind of look the other way, but the TABC does not.
No. Well,
so don't drink before your time, kids.
No, we're bad. Just learn from us.
So man, Golden Light. I've played there a handful of times. It's such a cool joint. You still play there these days?
Yeah, I mean, we traveled back home to visit family a couple weeks ago and played there, and it's great. I mean, it's just there's so much history there, and man, it's just really where I got my start as well. Nice. So it's a special place for sure.
I feel like a lot of those spots they have their own Texas flavor. It's just like Gruene Hall or Fry, kind of the that old dance hall vibe. It's super cool, and great burgers too.
Yes, always good food.
I remember stepping next door over there. Started playing the honky tonks out there. What happened from there?
Oh man, so I changed jobs about every like 2.5 years, pretty consistently. Left working at the church, just kind of just wanted to do something different, and managed a frozen yogurt shop for a little bit. That was just extreme contrast to what I was doing, but it was the first time I was like working outside the church, and so did that. Then I got a job at a bank, and did the whole banking thing. Got into the marketing department there, which I have a marketing background really because of that time. Then from there, let's see, what did I do after that? I left that job and actually just started playing music and freelancing, building websites and doing graphic design. So I was playing for Zach Wilkerson at the time.
Man.
This had been like 2011 or 12.
Yes.
And so I started doing that, and then
Zach is great.
Yeah, Zach's awesome. He, we still keep in touch. I play with him when I can, but I'm getting a little too busy doing my own thing, which is, kind of the goal.
Good problem.
Yeah, it is a good problem. And he's a good enough friend to understand that and support me, and so it's
Definitely.
a good friend to have.
I think I found a lot of people are definitely more open and supportive than you might think when it comes to leaving gigs or something, Nowadays, a lot of times something comes up, and sometimes it gets so hurt that guys are leaving a gig, especially when you have that kind of camaraderie on stage and off and whatnot, and somebody leaves a gig and you're sad, but when they're bettering themselves and making moves they have to, everyone seems to be pretty supportive of that
hold
deal.
it against them, yeah.
So how long did you play with him?
I played with him for about 4.5 years, and then I took a pretty big music hiatus and just worked and stayed at home. And then we, trying to think, probably like 2019 or so, I started hitting Zach up and like playing just every once in a while with him. I started a marketing company with another business partner, and then me and my wife had our first baby. So started a business and had our first kid in the same year. It was a terrible idea. And then I was, at that time, I started a little duo called Fine and Dandy with an old friend of mine named Ben Cargo. And we just did like this, it kind of was rooted out of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Like we just like really identified with that, like old bluegrass and
it's a fitting name.
Country, So I was proud of that band name. Did that for a while, and then moved down south.
Where were y'all based doing that? Up in Amarillo?
Amarillo, yeah.
So you didn't move down here till
May of 2020.
And now living in San Marcos.
Yes, just outside of Wimberley.
I have a long history in San Marcos. I moved down there in 2005. 2005? Yeah.
Yeah.
Lived there for about 12 years, and I love that town, man. It'll make you feel old pretty quick.
Oh, man, every time I go into town, I feel very old.
When you're in your 20s, it's a great place to be.
My goodness.
But, man, the river, the outdoor, the amount of, like, trails and green space they have is hard to beat.
I don't know how anybody would go to class.
I don't either, man. I remember there was apartments everywhere down there now, these huge high-rise things and huge complexes all around town, and they built one a few years ago, and it's probably more than a few now, but I remember their big billboard. It was like float to class or float home from school. It's literally on the river on the other side of the highway. So it's like, I don't know if anyone ever does that, but if you could find a way to get your inflatable tube in your backpack, you could totally just get in the river after class and make your way home. Yeah, man, between San Marcos and New Braunfels, it's hard to beat, man. I mean, it's getting crowded everywhere, but I grew up in Austin and have lived down here ever since, and I'd be pretty hard-pressed for someone to make me try and leave this area.
I know, yeah.
Especially now in New Braunfels, the music scene here there's live music all the time. Even through COVID, most of the venues have survived, done pretty well, and you can go any night of the week out somewhere and catch live music. And
yeah, it's amazing.
Definitely
something I'm not used to. Like I would do like a songwriters type of night, like probably like twice a year, and have to drive to Lubbock to do it.
Right.
Like just to be able to do this. I could do it every night if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Maybe not always paid, but
yeah. Well, man, I met you at a songwriter night. It was David Lee's deal.
Yeah, at Shade Tree.
Shade Tree, which, by the way, we're bringing the Sideman Song Swap there soon. That's right. That's going to be second Tuesdays, but on Wednesday nights, David Lee does his songwriter deal, and that's always so cool. The amount of talent that shows up for those things is crazy, and it happens every week. Blows my mind. I've run into old friends there and made a lot of new ones. And now we've got the Redbird a couple blocks from where we are right now.
Yeah.
And just that songwriting community is definitely strong down here.
It's awesome.
Abundant.
And everybody's so supportive of each other, It's just
definitely. It's super cool. So any songwriters out there, if you're in New Braunfels area, there's plenty of outlets to kind of do your thing and kind of meet some people that are like-minded and whatnot. It's hard to beat.
Definitely.
So, songwriting, have you been doing it forever? Or is it kind of recent, or?
I have been doing it a long time. I think anybody who has would say, like, the first few years, like I almost don't want to count them because it's so bad.
Right.
You know? Like, I mean, I was a little kid writing just terrible songs, but I just kind of dabbled then. But then I would say probably 10 or 12 years ago, like wrote my first like song that it made me think like where did that come from? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like any songwriter can relate with that, where if something feels, yeah, it was you that did it, but it's like cosmic in some way, where it's like that. I feel like I had more information than I should have to be able to do that. But,
yeah, that's a good explanation. I've never heard it put that way, but
yeah, I feel like a good song, that's how it happens, you know.
Man, there's so many
The few times it's happened for me.
great quotes and stories around that. I can't think of the line now, but in one of John Bauman's songs, like, wrote 100 bad ones before a good one came my way.
Yeah.
And I remember Radney Foster used to have the story that when he first moved to Nashville, like everyone does in that situation, you got to pick up weird jobs to make it for a while. And, you know, sometimes it takes years before you can start making any money music-wise. But one of his old jobs was driving, I don't know if it was like vans or whatever, but driving other people around. And one day he got to drive Willie Nelson somewhere, and his boss was like, do not talk to the talent. Just your job is to take them, do not bother them. And he was like, normally that wasn't a problem, but with Willie I just couldn't help it. So I kind of, you know, said, hey man, do you have any advice for up and coming songwriters? And he said, yeah, I do. The first 100 don't count.
Wow.
And I was like, man, it's funny to think 100 songs, but the further and further you get into songwriting, you know, every step you take is like, oh, I'm a little bit better than the stuff I used to write.
Yeah.
I'm so much further along, and that just never stops, I feel like.
And it's just a matter of, you know, like making it a discipline to do it. And I have a hard time not being too much of a perfectionist, and so like I want to like do it perfect. Like if I start writing and it's not, the handwriting doesn't look great, or I started in the wrong line, I'll like, you know, start a new page. Like you got to get over that stuff and just like write the song and write the next song.
Definitely, man. I feel that very strongly. I can relate to that totally, because man, I won't write for months sometimes, and then other times it's just consistent, and there's no rhyme or reason, but I don't have the self-discipline to like sit down and write all the time.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's kept me really consistent is, and I feel like I talk about this a lot, but there are these songwriting groups, and anyone can start one, but the idea is you get a group of people, and everybody gets a prompt, and you have 7 days to turn in a completed song, which happens on a weekly basis.
That's a good way to do it.
And it's great because it holds you accountable and
gives you a reason, you know, to do it.
And some of the groups are pretty intense, where it's like if you don't turn in a song, you're just kicked out. Yeah. And there's a long waiting list to get in, so there's this pressure and this accountability to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of in and out of some of those groups over the last 2-3 years, but man, when I'm in them, you're consistently writing, and you know, some of the songs are throwaway. They're not, you know, you wouldn't want to share them with anyone else, but
you wrote a song, you know.
Yeah, the good ones come out of that too, and so I highly recommend any songwriters. That is another great tool. If you can't find a group to get into, you can always start one. Find a few buddies, do that same thing, and I started one with some friends early on, and as a way to kind of, you know, you can say it, it's due this week, everyone has to do it, but if there's not like some penalty for not doing it, it doesn't do so well. So we started one. It was like something simple, just like, all right, you have to buy a round of drinks for everyone next week or whatever, and even something simple like that can kind of keep you in line and going.
Yeah.
But man, when it's rolling, it feels great.
Yeah.
It's just hard sometimes to get out of slumps, and you just got to make yourself do it. Finish a horrible song or two to get you in that groove. But
I'm funny enough, I haven't finished this book, but I'm reading a book. It's called the War of Art, and I'm blank on the author right now, but it's just all about battling resistance. And it's like, he said, somebody asked him like, do you only write when inspiration strikes, or you know, do you just like make it a discipline? He says, you know, when inspiration strikes, and fortunately it strikes every day at 8 a.m. You know, when I grab my cup of coffee and my guitar, and so
man,
making it that much of a discipline, it's possible, you know.
I had a good buddy of mine tell me a story, and a friend of his wrote full-time out in Nashville doing the publishing thing, and you know, when you're fortunate enough to be able to do that full-time, you can kind of work little things in your schedule to make it work. And I guess everybody can, but he said every day he would either read a book or watch a movie or just go sit in public and kind of people watch. And then you can kind of, get inspired by different things that way. And I think finding inspiration is the biggest and hardest thing. If you can find a way to consistently do that, you'll kind of have an endless flow there. But sometimes when you go into the same room in your house, your living room or bedroom, or if you have a space dedicated for that, it's sitting there, you're not always inspired. But I feel like if you go out of your way to seek sources of inspiration in that.
Driving is a big one for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
Living in a very small space right now with two little babies and my wife, and so getting that space is rare. So but driving, and I'm not used to how beautiful it is down here, like all the hills, and usually it's in the evening driving to a gig or songwriter night, and it's just like you most of the time have the radio off.
Yeah,
it's like that's the best place to write for me.
And I feel like after years of touring for a living, you get certain times to where you're just like burn out on music, which is kind of hard to say. Like, it almost hurts to say that out loud, but you get in the car and you're just
it's possible.
Cut the music off, and that's where like I feel like podcasts and comedy come into play. But I know a lot of people that say they write while they're driving, and I've never been able to really do that.
Yeah.
My dad used to drive back and forth from Abilene to Austin because he was from Abilene, and he'd like, I wrote most of my songs on that drive, and I wish I could do that.
Yeah,
it's just never happened. I've got to have something, a guitar, or I'll forget things if I don't write them down. So I've never been able to accomplish that. But when I hear people can, I'm like, man, that's awesome. I wish I could do that.
Most of the time, like, in your car, you got your little like emergency brake. There's like a pad or a footrest or something. I've gotten to where it sounds pretty good. Tapping in, got a little percussive thing going on. Record a voice memo. Yeah,
I definitely have voice memos where I take that back. Sometimes in a ride, I'll hear something in my head and like throw that on and just kind of hum a melody.
Yeah.
Say a few words that go with the idea and then mess with that when I get home.
Yeah.
But I've never been able to get too far on the drive.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what have you been up to recently, music-wise?
Oh, man, just playing as much as possible, getting some gigs, doing some, songwriters' nights, and just networking mostly right now, and making plans to get into the studio definitely at some point this year. So that's...
I feel like I've only got to hear your music 2 songs at a time at these songwriter nights. But, dude, you are a killer songwriter, and I know a lot of people are waiting for you to record some stuff, so hopefully this year will kind of bring that about.
I have a domain, no website attached to it right now, but danieldavismusic.com is where you can check out, and this will give me some pressure to get it get it up and built. So
I'm not going to tell y'all when we're recording this, but this will come out shortly before. We're going to be doing Gruene Hall together, which Gruene Hall needs no introduction. I remember going in there as a kid to watch my dad play, and that is a funny thing about this is I always dreamed of playing drums there because drums is what I've always done. It's kind of been my bread and butter, and it came kind of early when I got to play drums there, and every time since then it's still a treat. It's still, always awesome to get to play there. But I never dreamt of singing my own stuff there.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing.
When we started doing the song swap there, that first day, I remember walking in, a guitar in hand, and like, oh man, I'm doing it. That's crazy. It's super exciting, and that place has this kind of magic that still is kind of with me.
Absolutely.
So coming up this next Tuesday, April 20th, we'll be doing the Sideman Song Swap with Daniel here. I'm excited to get to hear a lot more of your material because, like I say, it's always 2 songs at a time, which these songwriter nights are great, but if you find an artist you really dig or whatnot, sometimes you're like, man, all right, where do I get the rest?
Yeah.
And which, by the way, you have any shows coming up later in April?
In April? Can't think that far ahead.
I know it's hard to put you on the spot. I'd have to pull out a calendar and be like, well, I think
nothing
this
that
is.
I know of at this point. I'm sure that'll change, though.
Yeah. Man, well, anything else on the musical horizon?
Man, honestly, just getting in the studio. It's like number one for me, so.
It's funny how much goes into that. You think like, oh, just book some time or whatever, and when you start recording, it's like, man, you got to get, if you got a producer in line or if you're going to self-produce, what players do you get? engineer, what's the room cost. Nowadays,
Yeah.
people can do stuff remotely, and that's been a huge deal. Obviously, over this past year with
Yeah, had to do it.
COVID stuff, pandemic, I feel like a lot of records have been made kind of remotely, which is pretty amazing. I feel like every musician that, if you weren't able to do that before March or April
Yeah.
of 2020, now you are.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's kind of built out their little spaces, and
Yeah.
and every musician is now a self-taught
Yeah.
engineer and
Absolutely.
producer if they weren't before. I think I'm kind of in the same boat, just working on a bunch of work tapes and kind of trying to figure out what I want to do producer-wise, room-wise, what I
Yeah.
can afford after this year of
Mhm.
of not being able to work too much. It's crazy how much goes into that, and
Yeah.
but getting excited to put out some music too. I haven't done it in years, and as songwriting goes,
2021's the
that
year.
stuff that was back, 6, 8, 10 years ago, I'm like, I don't want to tell people about that. Like, do you have music online? I'm like, it's kind of hard to find.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it that way.
Definitely.
Definitely excited
So,
to get some new stuff out this year.
You think you'll release it in 2021?
Oh yeah, I'm hoping to get stuff done by beginning of summer.
Awesome.
I probably won't be able to start for a few more weeks here, but man, I'm just in that boat where I want to get just 3 or 4 songs out.
Yeah.
Playing solo acoustic stuff I used to do it years ago. Actually, at spots around here in New Braunfels. And at the time, I would take whatever I could get. It was more kind of for fun and for learning at that point. But you get your $75 or $100 to play for 3 hours to people who don't care, and
Yeah.
they're going about their own business. And those gigs are kind of horrible, but kind of great at the same time.
Yeah.
It takes that getting in front of people in that setting to kind
Yeah.
of
It's a grind for sure.
get a little bit of confidence and kind of learn who you are as as an artist. And I took some time off because, man, those kind of gigs will beat your head on the wall, and it's never been my primary thing. So in the last year, doing the Song Swap has really gotten me back into loving doing it. And so as I'm kind of booking more of my own stuff, I'm finding like, oh, I don't have recent music. People ask for that, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I need something
Gotta work on that.
to prove I'm not horrible before you'll book me. So yeah, that's a big thing, but also I'm just happy to get something out creatively. I haven't done it in forever, and feel really good about some of the stuff I've been writing in the last 2 years, and I hadn't felt that way in a while. So
Yeah.
definitely looking forward to that. Yeah, indeed. So most of the stuff you're doing kind of solo by yourself?
Yeah, I've been doing some song swap shows, done some solo shows, but I've got a drummer and a bass player, and just need maybe like a pedal steel player or a guitar player or something just to piece that together. So.
Nice. So you started on piano,
Mm-hmm.
and did you play that all through those church days and those honky tonk days, or were you?
No, I played really early on. I dabbled in the church days. Like if the keyboard player didn't show up, I'd go over there and play the pad or whatever, just real simple stuff. But when I was playing with Zach Wilkerson, I actually started playing bass with him, and then we met a bass player, wanted him in the band, and so I switched over to about a keyboard and just really dove back into it. Then that was a whole different style that I had never played before, like the way I play now, and honky tonk, saloon piano, blues, whatever, all that stuff. But just kind of self-taught, just listen to my favorite records and things like that. And now it's like I really have connected with the piano again, and I would like to start writing more on the piano and even performing more on the piano myself. But it's just a different thing. It's kind of hard to lead a band rhythm-wise off the piano. You gotta have it really worked out.
I could see that. Man, that first couple times getting to hear you play your stuff was obviously guitar, so I didn't know the keys is where you started, but man, you've got a great style, finger picking, very accomplished. I assume that's what you'd been doing mostly for years.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so, yeah. I took guitar lessons early on and learned Blackbird.
So you have been playing guitar for years.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I started playing guitar, I guess I didn't mention that, probably about 10 years old.
Gotcha.
So, I
nice
turned
and early.
32, so.
Man, I got it was kind of weird. when I got into music, my dad was a bass player, and we used to, during the summers when I wasn't in school and we had all week, he only worked on the weekends. During the weekdays, we'd go to the music stores in Austin, and his friends that had all migrated with him from West Texas to Austin kind of owned a lot of the music stores and stuff. So we'd go around the music stores, and that was kind of his hangout for the week, his kind of social hour. And one day I just wanted this neon orange pair of drumsticks, so he bought them for me. Started beating on stuff at the house, boxes, and they got our first drum kit at 8. But a few years later, I thought I wanted to play guitar, and he got me a little Strat that was like this big. Mm-hmm. It's like fully functional Stratocaster, but smaller scale. Yeah. And I didn't take to it at all. I didn't like it. He tried to show me. I was like, I don't like this. Yeah. And so I kept on with drums, and it wasn't until years later that I actually picked up an acoustic guitar. And I'm definitely no acoustic guitar player. I can strum chords well enough to get through songs and write, but I play with so many amazing guitar players, especially in the Sideman deal. I've had some amazing lead players, and it just blows my mind. I almost feel bad. I get up and I'm like, I know my 6 or 7 chords, I can get through some stuff, and they're over here just playing lead to everything, and I'm like, man.
That's a whole different animal there.
Yeah.
Playing lead.
And I feel like I think most of my taste is kind of in, Americana singer-songwriter stuff these days. I feel like I write a little more on the pop side a lot of the times, but, a lot of that stuff, I'll hear stuff in my head and it needs some finger picking and some stuff that's out of my realm right now. So I'm definitely getting kind of the inspiration to start getting better at guitar. It's just going to take the discipline.
And, honestly, I used to be snobby about this or whatever, but don't be afraid to use a capo. You know what I mean? I've to play some lead stuff. I'm not super confident about it. I can play that in C, in the C formation, up here, and it's it sounds good, and nobody really cares.
Yeah,
I don't know if you feel that way about capos.
There might have been some point where I was self-conscious about that stuff, but
who cares? Yeah,
I've gotten to a point.
Sounds good anyway.
I feel like you're talking about being a perfectionist. I've always done that, so I'd never finish songs. I'd start them and get halfway, 3/4 the way through it, and be like, it's not good enough. I don't like this, and just toss it.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I'm just getting to a point where I'm like, man, you get through things, and that's the only way you get better at it.
Keep going, yeah.
You got to complete some crappy things to move on. And
I'm still working on that.
Little behind the scenes on this podcast stuff. I remember, I was trying to get professional mics and all this stuff getting going, and then I realized that is not near as important as just some open, honest content.
Yeah.
And most people are not worried about it, and I feel like that's a lot of art. The rawer, the better, and you can spend a lot of money and get deep into overproducing something, and it just depends on what your goals are, but a lot of times just getting something real out there is more important than nitpicking every detail. And
absolutely,
it's kind of a hard line to walk, I think, trying to find that mix of you don't want to put something bad out.
Sure, still doing it with excellence, but not not getting in your own way.
Definitely.
That's the battle.
Well, man, I'm thinking about, we're going to be hitting up one of these songwriter nights, I think, this evening. Mm-hmm. And I always try and take new songs to those things. It's so nerve-wracking, but it's such a good exercise, I feel like, to get new songs out. Some of these, paid acoustic gigs, I can get out and feel fine and play stuff and not worry about it. But something about when you get in these rooms with 30 other songwriters staring at you, it gets a little nerve-wracking. So I find that's a good place to work out new stuff and force yourself to try new things and make those mistakes in front of people.
Yeah.
Kind of humbles you a little bit to realize that, playing music live, it's not supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
If it was all perfect, it wouldn't be entertaining and people wouldn't be into it. So
the last maybe 2 times ago at the Redbird, I played a new song that I'd finished that same day, and I totally screwed it up. I did it for the most part, but totally screwed it up, and it really made me learn it after that, because I did it wrong. But still, somebody pulled me aside, and it really resonated with them, and it's that's awesome. I did it wrong, and it was still good. Served its purpose. And
that's a good thing about playing original tunes. If you mess up the words,
it's yours.
It's mostly.
I meant to do that. Totally meant to do that.
Oh man. Well, really looking forward to April 20th. This coming Tuesday. Gruene Hall's gonna be great. This is gonna be the second time at Gruene Hall that we've done the Sideman Song Swap deal there, and it was so much fun last time. Turnout and engagement was great, and as well as our original music. We're going to be bringing you guys songs and stories from our time on the road, which is equally as fun for me.
Yeah.
Telling some of these stories and connecting people is so much fun. It makes the music part of it that much more enjoyable, I feel like, when you kind of have some background to where you're coming from and that whole sort of thing. So, man, I encourage you guys to come out when you get a chance. There's a bunch of them on the calendar. You can find out all the information for this stuff at SidemansongSwap.com. Also the Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. I'll have a bunch more of these podcasts coming out this week, as I've got a lot of great new songwriters and sidemen that are joining me for this deal. So y'all stay in tune. Where can they find your stuff again?
DanielDavisMusic.com.
Good and easy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for hanging out, and we'll catch you next time.